Kia ora koutou katoa. Hello everybody from Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, Aotearoa, New Zealand. My name's Andrew McMillan and I'm honoured to be invited to present on behalf of myself and Fabio Moriali this presentation on our article Occupational Therapy Methods in the Design of Accessible Musical Instruments here at NIME 2024. The motivation for this research came from myself considering and reflecting on my past instrument designs and performances. As somebody who's disabled, living with a spinal cord injury, I was looking to avoid issues of repeating past processes where I'd relied solely on the instrument design developing through the design probe process. I basically wanted a better place to begin from. So to begin the design process, I was looking to understand the nuances of my range of movement and functionality better than I already did. The aim was to extract data via movement, function analysis, and create a template of understandings of which movements, functions, ranges, and abilities could best suit a design before we begin sketching ideas. I started to look through the literature associated with accessible musical instrument design, searching for answers on how to best assess movement and functionality. Surprisingly, in the literature associated with these designs, the specifics of movement and functionality and analysis were hardly mentioned, or mentioned broadly if mentioned at all. Here we felt that we had identified a gap where methods of assessment of movement and functionality associated with the nuances required for AMI designs was either not being practiced in the design process or just not being discussed in the literature. So we decided I should do a study of my own. At the same time, I'd also reviewed literature associated with occupational therapy and physiotherapy methods, and I'd also reflected on my own experience of this as somebody who's been assessed with these methods in the past. Occupational therapy methods and assessments are orientated towards carrying out domestic tasks at home and in the workplace, such as the wolf test shown here. And as you can see, it's simple tasks such as reach and retrieve, lifting a pencil, lifting a paper clip, flipping cards, turning a key in a lock, folding a towel. These are often used to inform therapists of what support a person might need at home or in the workplace, such as items of equipment or assisted care. It was decided that I should work with an occupational therapist and create new assessment data and see if we could focus more on the analysis we were looking for in regards to the design process. The occupational therapist suggested using the Q test shown here. Shows me reaching, pulling and pushing a weighted object, typing out a prescribed number set on a calculator, and picking up dice using my pincer grip. We also took the time to measure the possible angle range of my limbs with a goniometer. Even with the occupational therapist informed of what we were looking to do, the analysis still didn't provide enough information specific to my needs for starting the design of an instrument. So we decided to do our own experiments. For our first experiments, we used simple tools and techniques utilizing cardboard, paper, and pens. I drew lines on a sheet of cardboard on my lap showing one plane of reach range capability. And here's the pen attached to my hand with elastic. I reached up to strips of paper suspended from a microphone stand to provide ideas of height range. Unlike the Q test, these were measured and recorded. I played through a set of paper tiles in sequence by touching them to test speed and accuracy. We used a metronome to set the tempo and the highest accurate tempo was noted. We adjust the angle of these tiles using a cardboard box to discover what was most comfortable. This allowed me to lift my head while attempting the task, and I was able to raise my eyes and my sight line. I became more aware of my environment and surroundings as I wasn't having to look down at my lap to touch the tiles accurately. This was a positive finding, and my thoughts are that I'll be able to better engage with other musicians I'm collaborating with, and through these findings I can start to think how I might go about sketching a design. This last slide shows pressing on kitchen scales to measure force. So these experiments show how using everyday objects, simple ideas that are extended from occupational therapy, can be used in your own way. We then look to augment and extend these ideas further using sensors and digital interfaces to get more accurate measurements. The first of these was using an analog slider and creating a time to target test. In this test, the fader is placed on a plastic box and its position is adjustable. Each position of the box can be measured and recorded so that it can either be repeated in that position or assessed against other positions. We set a number as a target for me to reach and hold, and this is timed using a max MSP patch. Note that in the video there's a coloured panel on the computer screen in the max MSP patch. This will change colour, blue for when the fader is under the entered target value, red for when it's over the target value, and green for when it hits the target value. The aim is to reach the target as quickly as possible, with as few adjustments as possible before releasing the fader. We then print out the results in the max window.
50. 3, 2, 1, go.
Red, blue, green, red. Right, and then he presses P to print it out. These results show how many milliseconds I was over the target value, under, and then over again. It prints out also the total to target value, and you'll see they'll add up to 5,500 milliseconds. In the next lot of tests, we used an ultrasonic sensor to measure how far I could reach out from my body and create a 3D model of what was my comfortable reach zone or range of movement. We measured 5 planes of range of reach data that was recorded and drawn into AutoCAD to create the 3D model. This gave me a virtual space showing my limits and where was usable to design and place objects within. It also helps suggest how movements might operate objects and instruments in this most comfortable zone or range. Using the 3D model and having the range of reach measured, I was then able to design an instrument that I was sure could work within the comfort zone. The instrument I designed is not mentioned in the article as it was drafted after we had submitted to NIME. It's named the slider phone and has a slidable control with a length of 20 centimeters. Using the data gathered, I assessed that 20 centimeters would be the comfortable range for operation, speed, and accuracy. I could also form a strong idea about where the instrument would need to be placed and mounted on my wheelchair so that I could best operate it. And here is a demo of that instrument, the slider phone.
At the moment it's just 6.
What was noticeable for me is that the auditory feedback gave me a really good idea of where my hand and arm were. It looks like I'm looking down, but I'm not actually looking directly at my hand. I'm using my sight to position it. I'm using my ears. So the main takeaway points. There are many OT methods available that have good practices and processes, but lack nuances such as specifying the measurements of range and functions required for AMI design. However, they can be a good place to start thinking about where and how to begin analysis. Through enhancement with existing technologies available, relatively quick, simple, accurate and effective analysis can be obtained. Utilizing technologies in this way can also assist to map that best tech and position for the person and contribute to solutions for an instrument concept. The data from movement and function analysis can inform design concepts for drawing and sketching measured ideas before prototyping instruments and utilizing the design probe reflection and redesign begins. Probably the most important takeaway point for me is that through recording and discussing and sharing our ideas through articles, websites, community groups and workshops, we can help evolve our own understandings using range of movement and function analysis in design practice and frameworks associated with accessible musical instruments. And lastly, I'd just like to thank my co-author and supervisor Fabio Morielli and my assistant Sean Martin Buss for all their support and hard work in assisting me with my studies, research and creative practice to date.